I'm Mari Reid, and I'm a wildlife photographer and nature writer, and I want to share with you some of my experiences on a photographic trip I took to Australia's Northern Territory. I'd heard about this place, Kakadu National Park, from some friends and from seeing other people's photographs, and I really wanted to go there. We'd been told about various places that were good for birds and bird photography. And there was a wonderful place there that's very, very well known for bird life, which is called Yellow Water, which is a huge wetland complex in the center of this very, very arid park full of birds. So we knew that we would likely see lots of birds gathered together, interested in courting, and maybe some waterfowl and herons and all kinds of other wonderful things. So some of the birds we particularly wanted to photograph in Kakadu, and particularly in this wonderful wetland, was a fabulous creature called the Combcrested Justanna. And you can see what a strangely proportioned bird this is. Little tiny head, little tiny body, and these incredible long legs and even longer toes, these widespread toes that enable it to walk around on floating vegetation. The Justanna was just bizarre and wonderful, and very colourful. One of my goals was to actually get them in motion, walking along over the water lily leaves in action. This is a blacknecked stork foraging for food, and that's what it's doing here. It's chasing in the shallow water after what presumably is a fish or a crayfish or something that's trying to scuttle out of its way. And it put on this great show for us, running up and down with its wings open and making a lot of splashing, and then stabbing into the water with its bill and catching the prey. And here's a flock of magpie geese at sunrise. They have a very strange shape. They're called magpie geese because of their black and white, but they're also called knobbed geese because they have this strange knob on the top of their head. And they really don't look anything like what we think of as a typical goose. This is one of the first birds I tried photographing. It was one of those situations where I was trying to figure out how on earth do I go about photographing any of these birds? How can I get close to any of them? And I noticed suddenly that there was this forest kingfisher that came and sat on a perch, the same perch a couple of times in a row. And I thought, that's a pattern of behavior. And I can use that predictability to now anticipate that bird will come back. And so to be able to photograph it, I basically hung out there for an hour or so. And lo and behold, it did come back again. And it's got a katydid in its bill at this point. And I was kind of surprised to see a songbird attacking this kingfisher. I'm not quite sure why it would be. Maybe the kingfisher is a threat to the songbird's nest. But this songbird's called a willy wagtail, and it really does wag its tail. But instead of what we think of as a wagtail, where a bird wags its tail up and down, this one wags its tail from side to side. So it's very strange to watch. So one of the other birds we were interested in photographing is called the rainbow beeeater. Bee-eaters actually do eat bees as well as other insects, and they catch them in mid-air, up in the trees, and then they'd swoop out and chase around in mid-air and catch insects with a snap of their bill, take them back to a perch, and then they'd whack the insect on the perch and swallow it. But what was really delightful was as the day began to dwindle and it began to be dusk, several of the bee-eaters came down on the ground in the dust, and they started dust bathing, shimmying around in the dust to make the dust fluff around in their feathers, and that's the way they clean their feathers. So as always, when you go into a new place, you never know what you're going to get. You never know what the situation's going to be. You never know what you're going to come away with. It was a wonderful experience, and I'd love to go back there. So I felt like I'd come away with a lot of really great photographs from Northern Territory, especially from Kakadu National Park.